Good evening, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen in the gallery and those listening at home. Please be seated while Councillor Betts delivers the blessing. Thank you.
Thank you. I invite you to pray with me. Almighty God, we give you thanks for the opportunity of meeting together as council. We pray that you grant us wisdom and insight, and that our deliberations and the decisions that we make would be for the well-being of our city and its residents. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Betts. Before we begin, I will acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk Noongar people and pay my respects to their elders, both past and present. And we also value their culture and their ongoing connection with the country. Disclaimer. Actually, I'll do the 7:08, declare the meeting open. Announcement of visitors, no. Disclaimer, members of the public are cautioned against taking any action on council decisions on items in which they may have an interest until such time as they've seen a copy of the minutes of the meeting or have been advised in writing by city staff. Record of attendance. Councillor Dalton has a leave of absence, otherwise we're all here. Are there any disclosures of interest? Councillor Betts, your microphone's on.
Sorry?
Your microphone's
thank
on. Thank you. Any disclosures of interest? No, thank you. No announcements of presiding member. Reports of delegates? No. Move on to question time. The first question is from Mrs Tracy O'Neill from Kenwick. Mrs O'Neill, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the 15th of December 2020 Ordinary Council meeting, a property on Bickley Road had its application for a transport depot refused, due in part 2, and I'm quoting from the minutes of that meeting. The City has assessed the swept path movement for the prime move of vehicles travelling along Bickley Road and the corner bend to exit onto Kenwick Road. The assessment concluded that these vehicle movements are non-compliant as they cannot achieve the turn onto Kenwick Road without crossing the solid centre line. Mrs Barriolo here, at most meetings, questions the safety of the use of Victoria Road by oversized and overwidth vehicles, and is often told those vehicles can cross the white lines. The City has documented examples of those same vehicles using the section of Bickley Road to access Kenwick Road that was deemed non-compliant due to having to cross the solid centre line. So which one is it? Was the property on Bickley Road unfairly denied its application, or are the vehicles accessing Victoria Road via this route non-compliant?
Director Terrelink, did you want to answer this one, or Director Glover? One of you, thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we'll take that one on notice. It's quite a complex question.
And I notice you've actually got 3 questions, so you can ask 2, and if there's time at the end, you can come back with the third one. So, depending on which one you want to ask next. Thank you.
Will the City consider making changes to the intersection of Clifford Street and Kenwick Road between Euson's Logistics and the Bunnings Distribution Centre to a left turn only? This will send all commercial vehicles 40 metres down the road to the arterial road network designed for commercial vehicles and not back onto Kenwick Road and into the residential area.
Thank you, and I will ask Director Terrelink to... No? Director Glover, thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we would need to take that one on notice as well.
Thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
The next question, from Mrs Barriolo. If you'd like to come forward, Mrs Barriolo from Kenwick. And I'll rule out question number 2 because you've asked it on numerous occasions before with your answers being on record. So if you could ask your questions 1 and 3, thank you.
Don't agree with that, but anyway.
Up to you.
How many development applications within the past 2 years have been received by the City of Gosnells for commercial vehicle parking and storage facilities on Victoria Road, Kenwick?
Thank you for your question, and Director Terrelink may have to take that on notice.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we'd need to take it on notice. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Question 3. What action is the City of Gosnells addressing regarding the illegal removing removal of vegetation, trees and flora on properties within Precinct 1. Several of these properties are protected species which were unlawfully removed. A few of these properties have also laid hardstand without approval and drainage.
Thank you for your question. Director Bradbrook will respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If landowners are removing protected flora from their properties, the city would generally report that to the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation. They are the enforcement authority for native vegetation clearing. In terms of people commencing development and putting down hard stands without approvals, generally our approach to compliance is to give people the opportunity to, or if a land use can be approved, is to give them the opportunity to seek that approval. If they choose not to do that, then the city will take compliance action, including up to prosecuting the landowners.
Thank you, Mrs Barriolo. Next question is from Mr Patrick Cullen from Elsie Street in Gosnells. And Mr Cullen, you've got a fair bit of preamble. You can have about a minute to do your preamble, then your two questions. Thank you. And turn your speaker.
I'd like to start by acknowledging that we're on Wodja Noongar land, pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. My question, which will surprise no one, is about the Brixton wetlands. So I speak for the shielded shrimp, which has not changed its form for 300 million years, and for the tiny peacock spider and its strange dances and brilliant colours, and for the black cockatoos, the nollianak, the nollak and the karak. I speak for the plants, hundreds of plants found here, some found nowhere else in the world. I'm concerned, together with scientists, that all these species will fade away without proper conservation efforts. We already saw what happened to the karak roost with the last development in 2018, down from 334 to 22 last year to none this year. Their food and most of their roost trees gone. One of the largest roosts left of this threatened species, gone. With this in mind, I ask you, will you approach the WAPC with a view to getting the area put into a regional park as proposed by the Belia professors?
Thank you for your question. I'll get Director Terrelink to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a point of clarification, the rezoning that the city seeks only affects the land which is already zoned industrial under the Metropolitan Region Scheme. It doesn't affect the wetlands proper, which are the concern of Mr Cullen.
So my question was, will you approach the WAPC with a view to getting the area put into a regional park as proposed by the Belia professors?
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, did you answer that question?
Madam Mayor, we do intend to approach the state on that question. Thank you.
Sorry, what was that? Can you say that again?
We do intend to approach the state with that question, with the view of looking at that turning into a national park area, regional park. Thank you.
So
Next question.
you will approach the WAPC? Yes. Thank you. And my second point, will you uphold the conservation recommendations put forward by the Environmental Protection Authority by withdrawing your appeal against the advice not to proceed with the proposal to industrialise the 257 hectares, which they say goes against state laws designed to protect the flora, fauna and the hydrology on which these plants and animals depend?
Thank you for your question. The CEO, Mr Ian Cowie, will answer that. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, we've appealed because we don't believe that the EPA's recommendation would actually effectively work, and it leaves the Brixton Street wetlands with no protection if the land can't be rezoned that we're trying to rezone.
O'Neill, would you like to come back and ask your third question, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Given the city's concerns for this road's ability to handle vehicles that are oversized, and given the city is aware many oversized vehicles are using this road, why hasn't the city made changes to the road layout or restricted vehicle access to this road?
Thank you, and I believe Director for Infrastructure, Mr Glover, will answer that question. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll take that on notice and provide a full
Thank you.
response.
We'll now move to public statement time. Mr Cullen has a question here relating to 13.4.1, which is 33 of the agenda, which is the history and heritage. And his statement is surrounding the Uluru Statement and the Brixton Street wetlands, and I've ruled it not allowed to make that statement as it's not relevant to the item on the agenda. Thank you. Confirmation of the minutes. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Islam to move that and Councillor McDonald to second that. Are there any questions? No. Thank you, councillors. Please cast your vote. Show of hands. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Moving on to the receiving of petitions and presentations. Are there any? No. Thank you. Any applications for leave of absence? No. No questions of which due notice has been given. So we'll move on to planning and development, which is 13.2.1, the development application for storage and hardstand area at 85 Block 406 Victoria Road in Kenwick. Can I get a mover for that, please? Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Adams to move that and Councillor Williamson to second that. Is there any debate or questions on this item, councillors? Councillor Adams, nothing? Councillor Williamson? Councillor Dewhurst, thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I've got an amendment to the motion. The first amendment is to changing the date in condition 1 from the 7th of June 2026 to the 30th of June 2025, and adding the following condition. The applicant shall be required to install mature vegetation or a solid fence across the rear boundary of the property in order to screen the site from Clifford Street to the satisfactory of the city. The reasons, Madam Mayor, a short approval time frame than the 2 years is recommended to ensure the duration of the development is consistent with other recent approvals issued for development in Victoria Road. Approval of the structure plan, associated development contribution arrangements for Precinct 1 is expected within the coming months. Shorter approval timeframes for developments will enable more timely implementation of a structure plan. The second one, the properties Victoria Road that back on the Clifford Street are an eyesore, and this temporary development is unlikely to be any different. Jaceta has developed its land to a very high standard, and these properties attract from the high quality development along Clifford Street. Screening the site from Clifford Street will alleviate the issues in some contexts.
Seconder. Councillor Good is happy to second that. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Dewhurst?
I do, Madam Mayor. Look, Madam Mayor, we're really wanting to fast track what's going to happen in that precinct up there, and week after week we have people coming here saying, you know, how are we going to get traffic off Bickley? How are we going to get traffic off Victoria Road, heavy vehicles? And the only way to do it is along Clifford Street. Now, to actually build Clifford Street, we need money to do that. So we look at either two ways of doing it. We either borrow it and the whole city has to pay for it, and in regards to borrowing the money and the interest that we've got to pay, or it comes out of an ODP out of the surrounding area. Giving this development a two-year extension will actually go against that and detract, and in fact I believe it will slow up the actual building of of Clifford Street, because even though in the pre-meeting they said it wasn't, but I disagree with that. The main reason being is that we want to have that money sitting in the kitty so we can actually build this road. It's a priority for everybody. I know it is a priority for everybody here that Clifford Street gets built. Let's make it reasonable. Let's actually make it workable where we set the standard now going forward, knowing full well ODP will probably be approved very, very shortly, and then we can move ahead and actually turn that land in and do the right thing by the residents living along Victoria Road and Bickley Road by getting that road put through. I understand that this property has nothing to do with the actual building of the road going through there, but what does actually happen is the contributions that are required from any further development from there will be wanted to actually build that road. That's the first thing, Madam Mayor. Second thing is that For too long now, we've allowed the places that back onto Clifford Street just to have cars parked in the back there on top of each other. There were supposed to be sea containers around some of the properties. There's no sea containers there. People that we've given conditions on to do putting up screening between there and Clifford Street haven't been doing it. So let's actually make it a thing now where they're actually going to have to do it. Let's actually put it into our plans here. And I'm sure there's councillors around here who actually remember that screening was supposed to be up there for sea containers. We've had a couple of developments up there for sea containers around there. I don't know why they're not there. And I'll probably be a question for the director after I finish. But I'd like to see that a lot of effort has gone into this area by Jacinta, and people are renting on the ambitions that the place is going to be absolutely top star, but it's actually quite an embarrassment down that end there, and I feel sorry for the yards that are actually working out of there at the moment. So councillors ask you to support the amendments to the motion. And just on going for the question is, what actually happened to all those sea containers that were supposed to go along those properties along Victoria? I'm sorry to put this on notice onto you, but what actually happened to it?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. From my recollection, the only property that required the sea containers to provide screening to Clifford Street was the White Eagle property. I haven't been out there for a little while, but we did pursue that with them some time back and made sure that the sea containers were in place at the end to provide some screening. If they've removed those since then we can have another look at that.
Councillor Good, would you like to speak to the amendment as the seconder? Thanks. Thank you. Councillor Betts, thank you.
Just a question, in terms of the construction of Clifford Street would be funded from the Common Infrastructure Fund. Am I right in thinking that any interest that the city would incur if we borrow money first would be recoverable from that Common Infrastructure Fund, or is that not the case?
And the
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If the arrangement was structured and it was written in a way to include a loan as one of the infrastructure items, then yes, that could occur. But as it's drafted at the moment, it's not contemplating that loans would be required, that simply the reserve would be collected and built up and then spent on the road. Okay. So it could be done, but the way that the draft is at the moment, it's not included in the arrangement.
Your microphone's on, Councillor Betts. I was going to speak against this amendment. I don't have an issue with the change of the date, but I'm hesitant to enforce the applicant to install mature vegetation or a solid fence when we're just coming up to soon be looking at the developer contribution plan for the area. And I just think it would be unfair on the owner to have them install all of that for might counteract what their plans are for the property. So I wonder if the amendment maker of this would consider removing that condition. Otherwise, I'll be voting against this amendment. I'm happy with the date change, just not that condition to install vegetation or a solid fence.
Yeah, I am, Madam Mayor. The main reason that was put in there is because it really annoyed me the fact that they'd ripped all those trees out, and they continue to rip trees out after we'd actually breached them on that. So if that's what's going to get over the line for the Clifford Street, very happy to.
Okay, thank you. Made my position clear on that. Is there any further debate on the amendment? Okay, councillors, if you'd like to cast your vote on the amendment. That has been carried. We'll put that back with the original item. Is there any further debate on the original item? No? Okay. Councillors, please cast your vote on the original item. Thank you. That has been carried. Moving on to item number 13.2.2, the development application for the commercial vehicle parking at 25 Lot 131 Phoenix Drive, Kenwick. Can I get a mover? Councillor Good to move that. A seconder, Councillor Williamson, Deputy Mayor Williamson to second that. Thank you. Councillor Good, would you like to speak to this item? Deputy Mayor Williamson. Anybody else like to speak to this item? Councillor Dewhurst, thank you.
Yeah, to speak in support of the item. It's a little bit different to what we normally would probably allow, but you go past the pub test as it's shown to me this evening, I'd be supporting this wholeheartedly. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Is there any further debate or questions on this item? Right, councillors, please cast your vote. Thank you. Thank you, that has been carried. Item number 13.2.3, the development application for the transport depot, the caretaker's dwelling at Storage and Industry General at 61 Lot 252 Clifford Street, Maddington. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Baines to move it. Seconder, Councillor Lloyd to second it. Councillor Baines, would you like to speak to this item? Councillor Lloyd, would you like? No? Any further debate on this item? Councillor Williamson, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to speak against the staff recommendation for approval. I will foreshadow a motion as well if the staff recommendation is not supported. So the reason I'm speaking against this is that the application in its current form isn't satisfactory. And the foreshadowed motion that I propose is I, Councillor Serena Williamson, propose the following: that Council refuses the application for Transport Depot, Caretaker's Dwelling, Storage and Industry General at 61.262 Clifford Street, Maddington, on the grounds that the proposed standard of development is incompatible with that of adjoining development on Clifford Street and does not meet the requirements of the proposed structure plan for the area, and the proposed hard stand treatment is not sufficient to mitigate the dust nuisance, and it unreasonably impacts the amenity of the area and neighbouring properties. So the foreshadowed motion would result in the recommendation reading that Council refuses the application for Transport Depot, Caretaker's Dwelling, Storage and Industry General at 61 Lot 262 Clifford Street, Maddington, on the grounds that the proposed standard of development is incompatible with that of the adjoining development of Clifford Street and does not meet the requirements of the proposed structure plan for the area, and the proposed hard stand treatment is not sufficient to mitigate the dust nuisance, and it unreasonably impacts the amenity of the area and neighbouring properties. For the following reasons: Clifford Street is characterised by a very high standard of built form and landscaping, which meets the Council's expectations for the intended development of this area. The proposal is compatible with those standards and expectations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Yes, Councillor Good, would you like to speak to the original item?
Just a slight point of order, Madam Mayor. Councillor Williamson is talking about a foreshadowed motion, which I absolutely get, but the actual paperwork says amendment to motion on the, at the top of the form.
Okay, that's okay. You're quite right, but she has said foreshadowed, so that's fine.
That it matched. Thank you.
Thank you.
Otherwise, yes, I'm supporting.
Okay, thank you. Is there any debate on the original item, councillors? No? If councillors would like to vote in favour of the officer's recommendation on the original item, please raise your hand now. Okay, that has been lost. We now move to the foreshadowed motion. Councillor Williamson, are you seeking a seconder? Councillor Good to second that. Thank you. Councillor Williamson, if you'd like to speak to it. Thank you.
Thank you. I ask that councillors support this foreshadowed motion, as this part of Clifford Street is all developed by this lot. This lot has been under 2 prior development applications, and we're at a stage where the ultimate form could be built here, and there's no reason why we can't expect that to happen. The application also proposed Dustex as a treatment for the hard stand area, which isn't sufficient to reduce the dust issues on that site. So I'd ask you to support the foreshadowed motion to refuse. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Good was the second on that? Yeah, Councillor Good, would you like to speak to the item? Thank you.
Just want to support Deputy Mayor Williamson's foreshadowed motion. I wholeheartedly agree with your comments. The only additional comment I would make is we have to make sure we put out guidelines that people must follow, and that ratepayers, etc., must follow the rules. You can't build things and then ask for permission after the event. So I support it.
Thank you, Councillor Good. Does anybody else want to speak to this item? Did you want to? Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Betts. Thank you.
With refusing this development application, if the proponent were to appeal to the State Administrative Tribunal, my understanding is that that allows them to continue the current usage until the SAT rules. Is that correct? And what sort of time frame does that actually, to what extent can they drag that out?
Yeah, thank you.
Can they drag it out for 12 months and get the 12 months that they want without approval?
I'm sure the Director for Planning will let us know. Thank you, Mr Terrelink.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Technically, they're creating an offence. They're committing an offence at the moment, a series of offences for breach of conditions, and they'd be continuing to do that. So it wouldn't help them from that point of view. It probably would initiate, if they were aggrieved, it technically would initiate a new appeal if they wanted to, but in the meantime they shouldn't be doing what they're doing. So from that point of view, the compliance action remains as strong as it was.
Thank you. If there's no further debate, I'll ask Councillor Williamson to close. No, you're happy? Okay. Councillors, please cast your vote on the foreshadowed motion. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Move on to 13.3.1, the report on a petition for the request for an enclosed dog park in Kenwick. Can I get a mover? Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst, to move that, and a seconder. Councillor Lloyd to second that. Councillor Dewhurst, would you like to speak to this? Councillor Lloyd. Councillor Williamson, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to speak in support of the... I'd actually like to raise an amendment to the motion that reads, I, Councillor Williamson, propose the following, that the staff recommendation be amended as follows. 1, in staff recommendation 1 of 3, after the word that, insert the words subject to community consultation, so that the recommendation reads that subject to community consultation, Council supports Oliphant Street Reserve as the preferred location for an enclosed dog park in Kenwick, and notes that development of the facility in Kenwick will be listed for consideration in the 2025-26 budget. Point 2, amend staff recommendation 2 of 3 to read that Council supports the construction of 3 further enclosed dog parks at suitable locations in Gosnells, Thornley and Southern River. 3, amend staff recommendation 3 of 3 to read that Council supports an application to the Minister for Planning to use cash in lieu monies to develop the enclosed dog parks in Kenwick, Gosnells, Thornley, Southern River and at Sutherland's Park in Huntingdale. Point 4, the inclusion of an additional part 4 which reads that Council requests the Chief Executive Officer to ensure appropriate community consultation occurs in relation to the proposed location of dog parks prior to the projects being progressed. For the following reasons, it is important that community consultation occurs in relation to the location of dog parks to ensure the sites have community support. Further, a decision on the location of a dog park in Southern River requires further consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson, seeking a seconder. Councillor Lloyd, you can't second it because you second the item. Councillor Good, you can second it. Councillor Lloyd, Deputy Mayor Williamson, would you like to speak to the item?
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to ask councillors to support this amendment. I think we all support that we should have additional dog parks. I think there's many benefits to the community of having a dog park. It can be for mental health, for exercise, as well as socialising and exercising the dogs. So I think we're all in support of that, but I think we do need to go back to the community to decide on the most suitable locations. And this amendment will allow the city to progress with the application to the Minister to request the cash in lieu be allocated towards the dog parks without locking us into specific sites which the community may not support in the longer term. So I ask you to support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Good, did you want to speak to this item? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'm very much in support of Deputy Mayor Williamson's amendment. All to me makes extremely good common sense, in particular the fact of just getting local people to understand where the park is proposed, etc. But I was going to speak on the main motion, but I'll actually speak on about it now. Terrific stuff, these dog parks. I'm personally in favour. It's great that the staff have come together to get this motion to us. The fact that most of the councillors I'm aware of do like dog parks. As we get greater density and more people pour into our city, these dog parks are fantastic. I use them all the time. Just an excellent way for people to communicate. The dogs get exercise. It's just a win-win. We just got to make sure we get the right location so barking dogs aren't driving people nuts. But really, some terrific venues, and hopefully we get the right outcome. But just a great thing, these dog parks, they just serve a lot of good, particularly, as I said, if we move into higher and greater density and people need to walk and exercise their dogs. So well done to the staff for bringing this to us. Thank you.
Is there any more debate or questions on the amendment? Thank you.
Just how did we come up with, just for my own peace of mind, how did we come up with the Oliphant Street Reserve? Who made that suggestion?
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we did an internal consultation with staff who are associated with the parks, and that was their preferred location within Kenwick, but it is obviously still subject to consultation and may change it.
So the petition didn't ask for that, they just asked for a dog park?
That's correct.
Yep, cool. And is that the same with the other three as well?
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, the nomination of the parks was the same, but we obviously didn't have petitions for those.
No worries at all. Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'll be supporting the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy to support the amendment. Is there any further on the amendment? No. Councillors, please cast your vote on the amendment. Thank you. That has been carried. Now move back to the original item. Is there any debate on the original item? I just want to say something, and that is to congratulate the initiator of the petition and thank her for bringing this forward, Mrs Tracy O'Neill, in the gallery at the moment. A lot of work went into that, and I hope you're happy with the outcome. I'll be supporting the officer's recommendation on this, so I just want to make it known that we do value your contribution on this petition. Thank you. Any further debate or questions on this item? No? Councillors, please cast your vote. That's been carried. Thank you. That has been carried. Okay. Make sure I don't miss one like I did last fortnight. 13.3.2, the proposed lease for lot 611 Streatham Street, Beckenham to Telstra Corporation Limited. Can I get a mover? Councillor Baines to move that. Councillor Islam to second that. Councillor Baines, would you like to speak to this? Councillor Islam, is there anyone else like to speak to this item? No. Councillors, please cast your vote. Thank you. That has been carried. Item 13.4.1, the History and Heritage Advisory Group meeting on the 13th of June. Can I get a mover for this? Councillor McDonald to move this, a seconder. Councillor Good. Councillor McDonald, would you like to speak to this item? Councillor Good. Anybody else? No? Thank you, councillors. Please cast your vote. Thank you. That has been carried. Move on to 13.5.1, the Financial Activity Statement for June 2024. Can I get a mover for this? Councillor Adams to move it. Councillor Dewhurst to second it. Councillor Adams, would you like to speak to this item? Sorry, I can't hear you.
No, I'm all good, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dewhurst, would you like to speak to this item? I know he's going to have to mute me. Anybody else have any questions or debate on this item? No? Councillors, please cast your vote. Thank you. That's been carried. I should put some markers in here, shouldn't I? Yeah, 13.5.2, the payment of accounts for June 2024. Can I get a mover for this? Councillor Zhang to move this and a seconder. Councillor Baines to second this. Councillor Zhang, would you like to speak to this item? Councillor Baines, anyone else? No? Thank you. Please cast your vote. Thank you. There are no motions of which previous notice has been given, no urgent business, no confidential matters. I declare the meeting closed at 7:41. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Councillor Adams. Goodbye.